Well, the first season of the Scrubs revival has come and gone. And unless you are part of some sort of fan page, the chatter online has been crickets. Well, at the time of recording, there has been no news about a season 2. The initial viewership seemed pretty strong. So, maybe like one of the more obscure Taylor Sheridan shows, there might be a couple of clips that show up online, but hey, it's still pretty successful to the normies. But does it deserve a second season? And should you even bother to watch it? In terms of rebooted sitcoms, I will say that I think this is probably one of, if not the best. But it still has problems that a lot of reboots have, like going from a 20-ish episode procedural to a season of 9 episodes and kind of trying to mix the old procedural magic but then do like this bit more overarching story thing. Also, we got how some old characters are kind of just reset back to, more of the OG period instead of having them having moved forward after all this time. And finally, we got a lot of references to the original show and some fan favorite OG characters making random nonsensical nostalgia cameos for a couple of seconds and then leaving seemingly forever. A lot of the show kind of relies on nostalgia rather than being its own thing and a continuation. Now, there are degrees to how many of these issues kind of are in per episode, and there are some episodes that are definitely better than others. And sometimes all the reference to nostalgia is in your face, and sometimes it's a little bit more subtle and clever and actually works really well in the scene. All right, let's get into kind of this problem with the episode count thing. In the original Scrubs, season 1, JD, Turk, and Elliot were interns. Season 2, they were residents. And then by season 5, they finally became attendings. So, if each season is a year at Sacred Heart, then this is actually pretty accurate to how long it takes to become an attending, based on a Google search. I am not a medical expert or doctor in my spare time. And the amount of episodes that they had back then actually helped make it feel like you did just watch characters go through a whole year of learning. They learned a variety of things about either their jobs, lives, friends, or even themselves. The character development they had in the show could take a little more time to really, happen and show up and make it feel more natural. So the characters were still the base characters and they didn't just change overnight. In this season, after like 7 episodes, JD is saying how he is, coming to his stride as the chief of medicine, but he's only really done chief stuff in bit parts and mostly in like episode 2 or 3 where there were some comments about budget decisions that made people not like him. The rest of the time the show is mostly about relationships and mentoring, which doesn't feel that much different from when JD was an attending in the original show. Turk feels more chief like as the chief of surgery than JD does as the chief of medicine. The entirety of the hospital doesn't even really treat him as the chief of medicine with the power to hire and fire, especially Asian doc guy and feeling police lady. And with the show, you can tell that they want to do so many jokes and they want to have all the characters have some of their separate stories, have a decent amount of screen time, and it makes it so there's just no breathing room. Granted, Scrubs always had a lot of characters, and it was really good at balancing them because there were so many episodes in the season. There was plenty of time to give everyone something, even if they ended up kind of absent for an episode or two. But there just wasn't enough time in these 9 episodes to really give everyone enough. So, in terms of the resetting characters problem, I did mention this in my original video on episodes 1 and 2, but they made JD and Elliot divorced. They do have a kid, and kid isn't really mentioned in the show, and they're not a character. Now JD is back to sad single guy in his apartment, and there were a couple of girls that are in the show that he was like interested in. I don't know if Elliot is still in private practice or her being like the head of teaching coding is like an official hospital position or something because her career isn't really a thing in the show. It's more just about how she's back to being awkward and single. There is a bit of a thing in one or two episodes about her teaching the new interns about burnout and having a beef with WebMD and AI and how all the interns like to be on phones and stuff. But really, it's just at the end, Elliot is awkward, and then boom, she has a boyfriend. I hated the divorce choice, and I think it was just easy drama for the writers. Because now we got them getting over each other really quickly, but still caring for each other and being family even after the breakup, like they've kind of done before. But yeah, you got one episode where JD realizes he isn't fully over Elliot, and he can't really see himself being with another girl yet. Only for boom, Elliot has a boyfriend. And then the last episode, JD meets somebody that looks like they're going to be the love interest in season 2. Usually, there would have been a number of episodes, sometimes shorter, sometimes longer, between something like a breakup, and it would be more maybe hospital related stuff or on one of their characters or the life of a doctor. And you would kind of see that awkward of for a bit stuff about them being broken up and not really hanging out anymore and kind of feel the moving on and the re-coming together as friends. I mean, yeah, they would still, of course, have let's still be friends episode, but it felt more organic, even in the classic rushing of relationship stuff because it's TV thing. Hey, yeah, we're just kind of getting back into the number of episodes and pacing thing again. So let's go back. Turk did have some good new stuff with his remembering how to be fun thing going on and kind of balancing being a chief and having all the daughters and Carla wanting to work more kind of stuff. Speaking of Carla, she is barely in the show, except for one episode, really, that was about her. It was about her going through menopause and having to slow down, which is ironic because the excuse for Carla not being in the show was usually because she's picking up extra shifts. Carla's in a stage of her life where she needs to slow down. They don't want to say she's gone from the hospital and can't be on the show, so they say she's slowing down through menopause, but also she's not here because she picked up a bunch of shifts. It's not the tightest writing. Cox is in the beginning and 2 episodes at the end, and he gets sick. And there's not real much development for him. That's just kind of thing that happens. He gets to do some more Coxy stuff at the end of the season than what we got there at the beginning. And I still think it wasn't quite enough, and I still think he's a little too touchy feely and open with JD. All right, I guess talking about the older Scrubs characters kind of gets me to that nostalgia point. So let's get into it. JD, Turk, and Elliot are the only real series regulars that return. Cox and Carla are the second, but are still more just glorified cameos more than anything. Definitely not as much of a return as advertised before the show aired. Hooch and Todd were also advertised, and they make a couple of random appearances. I mean, they're in the show pretty much the same amount as they were in the original show. Like Todd more like the beginning, and Hooch just as much as Hooch was ever in the show, which I think is better than them suddenly becoming like series regulars. The janitor makes a quick, absolutely no time on the screen at all cameo in the last episode. It was really just about him being there to make the new janitor character hate JD so they can have that dynamic again. It honestly was kind of awkwardly forced into the episode when they had so much going on with the Cock 6 stuff, and the jokes weren't even that funny. It was all about a toaster. It was such a waste, honestly, of the actor and how they just made it seem like he left and will never come back. I'm not sure what Neil Flynn is up to these days, except for the random appearances on Shrinking. Carla Cox and Jordan, you can say they were pretty busy because they are in Rooster, Shrinking, and High Potential. All of those are airing around the same time, so probably we're filming around the same time too. I mean, the worst thing about that whole situation is that I'm actually enjoying Rooster and Shrinking more. I haven't seen High Potential, but my lovely fiance thinks it is good and stays up to date on it, so do with that what you will. But back to the nostalgia stuff. Along with the hey, remember the janitor kind of references, they do like actual flashbacks to the original show at times. There are some more subtle references, like the janitor still has keys to everything, but now it's like a smaller number than the comically large amount on a ring. Elliot at one point does say everything comes down to poo while giving a lesson to the interns, and Dr. Cox seems to be wearing Ben's jacket for the him being sick episodes. It is a mixture of subtle and boom in your face references. My only real complaint is still just the lack of the older characters and bringing them back for just random nostalgia shit. I mean, the flashbacks do seem a little lazy, but all the subtle stuff so far I think has actually been pretty good. Like, it is a hospital, so saying things like everything comes down to poo is fine, especially when, it's like them teaching the new interns that. All right, with those new interns, how are the new characters? Well, for the interns, I mean, they're fine, I guess. Very one note at the moment, and not much has been done to make me really like them, except maybe the British guy and kind of TikTok talk. They are not the best in terms of acting performance. They don't have that kind of overly cartoonish acting mixed with peak dramatic performance that the original actors can do in their sleep. The Asian doctor I do not like. Both the character and the actor's performance are annoying. He isn't the fun, likable dick like Kelso, Janitor, and Cox. And his I hate JD for being chief and I'm bi and I fuck everything that moves shtick got old really quick with a performance that could not keep it lasting for like a long time. You know, he told on people. Ooh, that's how he got JD. The janitor stuck him in a fucking water container thing the whole time, like chaining his bike to there and having to hit on the X. Like the janitor shenanigans was legendary, and Cox rants were iconic. Kelso just being sweet old man devil that says some funny old shit. Like it was three different kinds of being mean, and it was all better, and you still loved all three of them and kind of felt for them when they had their moments. Asian Doc is just he didn't really even have a dramatic moment. He's just a dick for no real reason. Oh yeah, and then there's Feelings Police Lady, who I also can't stand. I appreciate how there was kind of commentary on how bullshit a lot of this political correct stuff has gotten, but still, like the powers the show gives her position, especially over the chief of medicine, is just ridiculous. She is honestly just annoying, and in my opinion, the performance is cringe. And the fact that now she's going to be Elliot's friend because they can't get Carla in or don't know what to do to her with her is just stupid. And please, no, just get rid of her. Overall, I'm happy that the main focus of the show is not on these new characters. And hopefully all these characters can be improved upon. But also right now I just don't care about them. If there are more seasons, they need to do more to endear them to me. And I know I did nothing but kind of bitch about the show in this video, and you probably think I'm very negative and nitpicking and just hating because it isn't the original Scrubs that I, remember, and they're not doing what I wanted. But again, I do think this is one of the best reboots out of the lot. I still think there's good messages being conveyed at the end of each episode. I think the older actors are not phoning it in and do really care about the characters. I think some of the jokes were good, and the cutaways were half decent. I think the cobwebs need to be dust off a little bit more again, and I think Bill Lawrence needs to get a little more involved in the writing room. He's been doing a lot of dramedy shows lately, focusing kind of more on the drama side, and I think he needs to get back to more of the comedy with something like Scrubs. And even though I think Cox is still a little too vulnerable and emotional and open when talking with JD, I did think the performance between like him and JD for the last two episodes were excellent. The mentee now having to take care of the mentor. I mean, it's a classic move. And Cox being like, hey, careful. I know what everything on that chart means. That's not verbatim, but still, like that moment and that scene, like that was a good line. And that stuff really did get me in the feels. I think there is plenty of potential, but there are also plenty of improvements that can be made as well. And we'll see if that happens if they get another season. Or, the casual 5 seasons that Zach Braff threw out on that random red carpet thing.
Right. And what is your overall kind of plan? I mean, we have 9 episodes. That's
None of us would be here if we weren't planning to still do the show.
like many, many seasons.
I don't know, many. That's going to be on that guy. Hey, Zach, how many seasons of the show do you want to do?
I think 5.
So probably 5.
5?
Yeah.
And a movie
Thanks, Bill.
Honestly, I think this was better than 9. But right now, I think if there was no season 2/11, whatever it's going to be called, I would be okay with that. But also, if they did make more, I would watch it. So, should you watch it? Is it worth your time? I honestly don't have an answer, other than maybe. If you're tired of rewatching old Scrubs, then give it a shot. It's pretty quick. But honestly, if you're not jonesing for a hit of something new with JD, then maybe don't bother and see if somebody else has some opinion that resonates more with you. Go watch Rooster. So far, it's been pretty good.